In what is perhaps the biggest news to hit the Disneyland community since the announcement of Star Wars Land, Disney has announced that they're going to build a new hotel and a new parking structure. And if fulfilled, it will likely change the way we perceive Disneyland in very profound ways. Hello everybody, welcome back to Fresh Baked, and thank you for joining us on what is sure to be game-changing news for the Disney community. According to the Disney Parks blog and the OC Register, a new 4-diamond hotel is on the way for the west end of Disney property in areas that currently are occupied by downtown Disney. Along with this, the OC Register is reporting that Disney is going to cancel the Eastern Gateway project in favor of a similar-sized parking structure on the west end of the Disney property in the Pinocchio parking lot, which is adjacent to the Mickey and Friends parking structure. Now, before we get into the details of the new hotel and the new parking structure, let's recap real quick the history over the past year of the Eastern Gateway project. Almost immediately after announcing their plans for a new transportation hub and parking structure on the Eastern Gateway, Disney met resistance from Harbor Boulevard businesses and open opposition from the city of Anaheim. The businesses on Harbor Boulevard complained that they were going to lose significant foot traffic as Disney planned to build a footbridge over Harbor Boulevard, thus bypassing all of the businesses on Harbor. As a result, a project that was supposed to be completed well before the opening of Star Wars Land in 2019 has been on hold permanently, jeopardizing their ability to open this new parking structure in time for the Galaxy's Edge. Then, just last week, Disney announced the cancellation of all Run Disney events indefinitely. This was perceived by most as a veiled threat by Disney to the city of Anaheim and its businesses to remind them, I suppose, of how the city is fed. But now it appears that while this may have in fact been a veiled threat, is also a very practical thing that is needed to be done, as most all of the construction that is being proposed is going to occur on run routes that existed on Disney property. And with that, most everybody thought the Eastern Gateway project was more or less dead, and that turns out to be the case. As for the hotel, it is a 700-room, 4-diamond resort that is being described as contemporary, sort of a resort oasis, if you will. It'll have 2 pools, a fitness facility, and a rooftop restaurant that'll have views of the fireworks over Sleeping Beauty Castle. The side of the hotel, and this is where things get a little interesting, is going to be on downtown Disney. And it'll be built in areas currently occupied by ESPN Zone and the AMC Theaters and the Rainforest Cafe. It is believed, though, that some of those businesses will be able to operate inside of the new hotel. In addition, it appears that the new hotel will be built around the existing monorail stop at downtown Disney, thus allowing guests to board and deboard inside the hotel. There would be no other changes to the monorail. It's not going to be rerouted anyway, and there's no plans that I can tell for them to add a stop at the Grand Californian, for example. Meanwhile, as mentioned, the 6,500 space parking structure is going to be built adjacent to the Mickey and Friends parking structure right there on the Pinocchio parking lot. The plans are to add 6 new lanes to the flyby ramp as you enter the parking structure, thus suggesting that the 2 structures will be connected somehow to the point where guests will be able to park in either structure on a given day. The hotel is supposed to start construction in 2018 with a completion date sometime in 2021. They didn't give a starting date for the parking structure, though they did say that they're hoping that it'll be complete by 2019 or for the opening of Star Wars Land, which actually sounds to me like there's no chance of that happening. So how is all of this possible? And by that I mean, how are they going to get approval for this, considering they're already in what is obvious open war with the city of Anaheim and its mayor? How are they going to get approval for this new plan when they couldn't get any kind of approval for their previous plan? First, and probably most important, it's because this is going to be on Disney property, so there's going to be no revolt, no opposition from other outside businesses. But there's also a carve-out from the city of Anaheim that has given Disney pre-approval for just such a project. Disney has already been approved as part of an agreement with the city to build up to 16,700 new parking spaces and an additional 4-star resort. Per the OC Register, Disney has been granted these approvals in exchange for 70% of the 15% transient occupancy tax visitors are charged to stay at the hotels for the next 20 years. As for the Eastern Gateway, no real plans. They're going to raise the Carousel Inn, and I expect it to be a vacant lot for a long time to come. So let's talk about the future. What does this new hotel and parking structure mean for the long-term future of Disneyland? I said at the outset that this plan will change the way we perceive Disneyland for all time if completed. With these new arrivals, the face of Disneyland and the way that we arrive at the park will no longer be via Harbor Boulevard the way it used to be. I mean, it's been trending that way for a long time now, but it used to be that was the only way in. But the construction of downtown Disney and the Mickey and Friends parking lot began that change. With the new plans calling for beautifully landscaped walkways, lush water features, plus more dining and entertainment options, the expectation is for this to transform the Western Gateway into a welcoming entry for Disneyland guests, i.e., most guests will be entering Disneyland from the west, not the east, even those not staying at one of the resorts. By taking their cues from Florida, where Disney does a great job of keeping guests in the resort, Disney is providing more hotels, shops, and restaurants on property, and that means that guests are less likely to explore the far less Disney Harbor Boulevard. Once guests are parked in one of the two parking structures, they will be firmly embedded in the Disneyland resort, and they'll have no reason to leave until their stay is complete. And I wonder now if the businesses on Harbor Boulevard are second-guessing their decision to oppose this plan. Have they doomed Harbor Boulevard? It may not be in my lifetime, but I can envision a future where Harbor Boulevard becomes something of a ghost town, and one where it may be possible for Disney to purchase neighboring properties that were once loathed to sell. Now, all of this sounds like pretty good news for fans of Disney and the Disneyland Resort, but there is one casualty to all this that may be overlooked by some. Marvel-Land, or rather a bigger and better Marvel-Land. One of the reasons why they wanted to build the Eastern Gateway was so that they could take the current transportation hub and move it off-site. That way they could take over that area and expand the DCA boundaries. This way you were allowed to build a maybe bigger or better Marvel-Land, or perhaps expand the boundaries of the Hollywood backlot, giving the backlot more room to add bigger and better attractions. But with the Eastern Gateway project now dead, that means the current transportation hub must live. And that means less real estate for the expansion of DCA and or Marvel-Land. And with this, all of the news over the past year, or maybe the lack of it, it all has intersected nicely. We now know why we haven't had any Marvel announcements to speak of about Marvel-Land, and we also know why they canceled Run Disney. Heck, we even know why the current bag check at Mickey and Friends was constructed so temporarily. All of that is because they had perhaps bigger plans and they didn't know what they were going to do. But now that that's the good news about all of this, is now that we have a firm announcement, we can start hearing more good news come out and more positive direction from all of these projects. And there you have a summary of what I believe to be the biggest news coming out of Disneyland since the announcement of Star Wars Land, perhaps even bigger than that if you think about it. This plan will forever change the way we see the park, where the park is, and how we access it. And of course, Fresh Baked, I'd love to hear all of your thoughts on this. Is this better? Is this project better than the Eastern Gateway? And have the businesses on Harbor Boulevard bitten the hand that feeds them? What kind of future do you see for the park entrance and specifically for Ball Avenue? Let us know in the comments below, and until next time, don't forget to love Disney every day and Fresh Baked!